Hello everyone, please press subscribe, press follow, press the bell so you don't miss any new clips. Alchemy Emperor of the Divine Tao. Author by Flying Alone. Audio novels by Novelist. Chapter 156. Go earn money at Heaven's Medicine Pavilion. I'll go with you, Lu Yutong immediately said. She would naturally know what kind of place the Cherishing Flower Pavilion was, a money-squandering establishment for men. How could she let Ling Han go without worry? It was only now that Xuanhuan turned to look at Lu Yutong, bowed faintly, and said, "So it is the princess of the Lu clan." Xuanhuan has been impolite. Lu Yutong looked a bit awkward at being addressed so because she did not know Xuanhuan. However, in her eyes, all girls who came from the Cherishing Flower Pavilion were unbearably filthy and not characters she would deign to know anyways. Moreover, Xuanhuan was intending to drag Ling Han to play at that kind of place, which would increase her antipathy even more. Thus, she only gave a reserved nod, and did not even spare her a courteous reply. Xuanhuan could not help but show an enraged expression. She was Lady Yan's adopted daughter, and did not need to receive customers. Thus, she similarly had a high opinion of herself. However, in the eyes of a noble princess like Lu Yutong, she was indeed unable to escape the reality that she came from the red light district. This was very upsetting to her. Lady Yan has made it clear. We are only inviting Mr. Ling alone. She did not clash with Lu Yutong head-on, but simply used the name of Lady Yan to tactfully decline her. Niu go too. Niu scrambled out and clung onto Ling Han's arm, completely looking like a spoiled child. That's right. We'll all go, Lu Yutong emphasized. With Niu there, even if Ling Han was driven wild by passion, he would have to behave himself. Just let him come with me. Ling Han picked Niu up. The older one would still listen to me, but even I won't be able to settle the younger one. She. Niu's eyes lit up, and said happily, meet. Xuanhuan did not mind if Niu went. After all, the one who had incurred her displeasure was Lu Yutong, but since Ling Han had already spoken, she could only say, then, please come to the Cherishing Flower Pavilion tonight for a chat, all three of you. I shall take my leave for now. When she had finally left, Lu Yutong looked to be in a slightly better mood. Ling Han could not help but grin, and asked, my little female attendant, are you jealous? Who's jealous? Lu Yutong's beautiful face turned completely red instantly, as brightly splendid as a flower, becoming an extremely captivating picture. Ling Han laughed loudly and, changing the subject, said, how has the business of the clothing stores been? Very good. We've already managed to take over most of the business of the Chen clan. However, the Chen clan would definitely not sit by quietly and wait for their end. Either a price war would follow, or they would send someone to create a disturbance at our stores. Lu Yutong frowned slightly. After all, these stores did not have the symbol of the Lu clan on them. Ling Han smiled softly, and said, if they decide to stimulate a price war, it's fine. I was not planning to earn money from this business anyways. But if they dare to send someone to make a disturbance, that would give me the best excuse to pay them a visit and give them a thrashing. Lu Yutong finally understood. Indeed, if the stores were smashed, then as the owner, Ling Han would of course have a legitimate excuse to make a move. But the Chen clan would most likely not make a move themselves, but rather send over members of the Earth and Water faction. Earth and Water faction. A cold light flickered in Ling Han's eyes. This faction would be willing to even do jobs like kidnapping little girls, which was evidence enough of the extent of filth in its inner workings. He had already thought of obliterating this faction. I deduced that the Chen clan would not resort to force, but would rather induce a price war to see if we would back out on our own. I'll take advantage of this period of time to first deal with the Earth and Water faction then. Lu Yutong could not help but look worried at this, and said, the Earth and Water faction has relations with all 8 great clans. If you move against the Earth and Water faction, the 8 great clans may interfere. Ling Han was very displeased. In his last life, when had he ever experienced having his hands tied up like this? But who asked him to be only an element-gathering tier now? Even in a small place like Rain Country, he was not able to have a large amount of influence. Let's go to Heaven's Medicine Pavilion first. I've been spending money like water these days, so I need to earn some money first, he said after a moment of thought. Going to Heaven's Medicine Pavilion to earn money. A strange expression came over Lu Yutong's face. Who would not be spending money at Heaven's Medicine Pavilion? But this guy was the exact opposite, actually thinking of earning money at Heaven's Medicine Pavilion. However, when she recalled Ling Han's terrifying ability at alchemy, earning money at Heaven's Medicine Pavilion seemed a very natural thing for him to do. Let's go. Since someone is treating us tonight, let's just have lunch outside as well. Ling Han stepped out the door, Who knew in his arms. What about the two girls in the house? Lu Yutong caught up with him. She was of course referring to the Lu sisters. Oh, I was already kind enough to take the two of them in, and I still have to take care of their daily meals. Just let them cook for themselves, Ling Han said with a laugh. A captivating smile suddenly appeared on Lu Yutong's face. It was obvious that Ling Han had completely zero interest in the Lu sisters. Otherwise, he would not act this way. This discovery made her very happy, and even she herself felt it was very peculiar that she would be so happy. With two beauties as company, Ling Han arrived at the Heaven's Medicine Pavilion. Young Master Han. He had just stepped onto that long and wide flight of stairs when he saw an old man in his 60s also coincidentally descending the stairs. When the old man saw Ling Han, he hurriedly approached him and greeted him very respectfully. There were 4 others behind this old man, and they were all his disciples. When they saw their master act this way, an expression of utter astonishment appeared on their faces. This was Grandmaster Xuanhuan they were talking about, a genuine black-grade middle-level alchemist, someone who was just one step away from being equal with the 2 biggest bosses of alchemy of Rain Country. But when they saw how Xuanhu could not help but bow deeply, his face filled with utter respect. It was obviously not faked. That was indeed a completely sincere display of reverence. If Ling Han had been Wu Songlin, or Fu Yuansheng, it would not be strange. Alchemy was the same as martial arts. The gap of different levels was like the gap between heaven and earth, but Ling Han was only a young brat. How could they not be completely dumbstruck? They've seen a ghost. They've definitely seen a ghost. They all rubbed their eyes harshly, completely unable to believe this scene was real. You are. Ling Han only recognized this person to be one of the alchemists who had observed his alchemy techniques that day, but he did not know who exactly he was. Pooh. All of them felt like they were going to pass out. Just take a look. Grandmaster Yuanchu's face was practically about to touch your shoes, and you don't even know who Grandmaster Xuanhu was. This really was, they didn't even know what else they could say anymore. My name is Xuanhu, and I had the good fortune to witness young Master Han concocting alchemical pills some time ago. I have benefited greatly from observing young Master Han, but I was completely immersed in young Master Han's techniques that day and did not even know when you had left. I have committed a grave offense. Please forgive me, young Master Han. Xuan said in fear and trepidation. 1. Hiss. Everyone was once again shocked. With Grandmaster Yuanchu's status, he was actually apologizing for not personally seeing Ling Han off. Who was this brat? He was absolutely terrifying. Ling Han smiled, and said, It's all right. Young Master Han, have you come to concoct alchemical pills again today? Xuanhu asked, filled with great anticipation. He had an indescribable confidence that as long as he could watch Ling Han concoct alchemical pills a few more times, he would definitely be able to break through to become a black-grade high-level alchemist. Thus, he would of course be very proactive. Could this old man be able to tell the future? Ling Han smiled, and replied, That's right. I want to concoct a type of alchemical pill. Please, please. Xuanhu hurriedly said respectfully. With Xuanhu escorting him, Ling Han quickly entered the main hall. Young Master Han. Xiao Ying immediately came over to receive him, her face filled with pleasant surprise. As she had already been promoted to the position of a minor manager, she no longer needed to greet customers at the door. However, she had long wanted to see Ling Han again, and so had kept standing guard at the door recently. Finally, she had gotten her wish. Ling Han nodded at her, causing the corners of Lu Yutong's lips to rise slightly. This guy was really an expert at making women fall for him. Alchemy Emperor of the Divine Tao. Chapter 157, Foundation Building Pill. Ling Han only nodded at Xiao Ying before proceeding to the third floor of the palace, escorted by Yuanchu. This was where high-ranking alchemists would concoct alchemical pills and rest. How about this? I won't limit the number of people today. You all can observe me concoct alchemical pills, and I'll simply accept an observation fee of 1,000,000 silver coins, Ling Han said to Yuanchu. Pooh. Once again, those 4 disciples of Yuanchu choked. It was simply observing the pill concoction process, and you want to collect a fee of 1,000,000 silver coins. Were you trying to rob him? Even Lu Yutong's lips twitched at this. 1,000,000 silver coins for observing him concoct pills once. Even if there were only 10 people, Ling Han would be able to earn 10 million coins for every time he allowed him to observe, and observing him for 10 times would allow him to earn 100 million. 100 million. The Lu clan was a large clan and had many businesses under their name, so their monthly income was definitely not just a mere 100 million coins. However, if you were talking about net profit, then there was definitely not as much as 100 million, and it was far below such a colossal amount of money. The earnings of a single person were able to equal the earnings of an entire clan. No wonder Ling Han was so confident he would be able to utterly defeat the Chen clan in terms of finances. It was really too easy for him to earn money. But still, would Yuanchu actually agree to such a condition? Really? Yuanchu's eyes widened, an expression of pleasant surprise on his face. Just 1,000,000 coins. Damn. Lu Yutong and his 4 disciples suddenly felt like they were going to pass out. Yuanchu actually thought 1,000,000 coins was a bargain. That was natural. If he could manage to observe Ling Han concoct alchemical pills for a few more times, he'd be able to advance up the ranks. How could that kind of benefit be measured in terms of money? Moreover, once he managed to advance to the next level, he'd be able to concoct even higher-grade alchemical pills. Plus, when an alchemist advanced one level, the price of the pills he could concoct would also soar to a whole new level. One could definitely say that every high-level alchemist was extremely wealthy, but the majority of alchemists were not hoarders of their wealth, and would instead use their immeasurable wealth to improve their ability as an alchemist. But when an alchemist had reached black grade, which of them would not have a few dozen millions in savings? 1,000,000 was absolutely nothing to them. Ling Han was also not one who would attach a lot of importance to monetary wealth. Money was a worldly item, and when one's ability reached flower blossoming tier, mere money would not be able to buy the cultivation resources one needed. At flower blossoming tier and beyond, one would have to trade for the resources he needed with something else that his trading partner wanted. Of course, money was still quite useful to him now. Otherwise, Ling Han would not demand an observation fee. Yuan immediately went off to call the other alchemists. Very quickly, the various black-grade alchemists all arrived one after another. However, there was a pitifully small number of yellow-grade alchemists. There was only Lu Si-chan, Qizan Tai, and a few others, and the last to arrive was Fu Yuansheng. Old Fu, you're right on time. Help me collect money, Ling Han said, without any kind of reservations at all. At this, those 4 disciples of Yuanchu really fainted. That was Fu Yuansheng he was addressing, one of the 2 big bosses of alchemy in Rain Country, but in Ling Han's mouth, he had become Old Fu. Meanwhile, Fu Yuansheng stepped forward, his expression all smiles. It was his honor to be able to serve a Grandmaster alchemist. Moreover, whom among all these high-ranking alchemists had not begun from the position of an alchemist's apprentice? They had all started from doing odd jobs and assisting a higher-ranking alchemist, so it was nothing new to them. Thus, no one felt any disdain for Fu Yuansheng. On the other hand, they were all indescribably envious. To be able to serve a Grandmaster Alchemist, what an enviable task. Everyone delightedly paid the observation fee, while only Lucy Chan and Chizan Tai were exempted from paying. Black-grade alchemists really did not lack monetary wealth. Today, I'm going to concoct the foundation building pill. All of you should know that this is a black-grade high-level alchemical pill, right? I'll also get the license of a black-grade high-level alchemist while at it, Ling Han said. He would be hitting two birds with one stone in this manner. Foundation building pill. When they heard the words, foundation building pill, from Ling Han's mouth, all of them bore expressions of utter shock and astonishment. There were many different types of black-grade high-level alchemical pills, and of course, the level of difficulty in concocting different black-grade high-level pills varied greatly. There were 4 different levels of difficulty, and they were easy, difficult, extremely difficult, and practically impossible. Those alchemical pills that fitted into the level of practically impossible were actually close to the level of earth-grade alchemical pills. Thus, an alchemist who could successfully concoct an alchemical pill in this category was almost definitely able to advance to become an earth-grade alchemist. Foundation building pill was precisely one of those pills in the practically impossible category. This kind of alchemical pill could help a spiritual ocean tier alchemist build his foundations to prepare for the construction of his spiritual pedestal. It belonged to one of the rarest types of alchemical pills that could help a spiritual ocean tier martial artist break through to spiritual pedestal tier. The reason why foundation building pill was considered close to the level of earth grade was firstly because of the level of difficulty in concocting such a pill, and secondly because of the effects of the completed pill. For a martial artist, 3 types of alchemical pills were the most valuable for them. Firstly, the type that would help them increase their cultivation. Secondly, the type that would assist them in comprehending martial arts techniques. And thirdly, the type that could assist them in breaking through to the next level. If one would rank these 3 types of pills in order of importance and value, then it would be the exact opposite order. The most valuable, and also the rarest, was the type of pill that would help a martial artist break through to the next level. The type of pill that would extend one's lifespan was not included in this division because only natural treasures would have that kind of effect. If these natural treasures were concocted into alchemical pills, the effect would be the exact opposite. Everyone here had heard of the foundation pill before, but there was no one capable of successfully concocting it in a small place like Rain Country, and this included the 2 local big bosses of alchemy as well. If this kind of alchemical pill could be mass-produced for sale, the large number of spiritual pedestal tier elites that would appear in Rain Country could be imagined. This could very possibly overturn the balance of power in Rain Country. Even merely the thought of it caused these people to shiver. A single alchemist had the ability to completely change the power structure of a nation. It sounded like a fantasy. I need these ingredients, Ling Han said to Fu Yuansheng. The reason why the foundation building pill was so close to the level of earth grade was because of the level of difficulty involved in concocting such a pill and its effects. However, there was not much difference between the ingredients necessary to concoct it and the ingredients necessary to concoct any other black-grade high-level pill, so the Heaven's Medicine Pavilion would definitely have the necessary ingredients available. And true enough, Fu Yuansheng immediately nodded, and waved his hand to command someone to retrieve the ingredients that Ling Han needed from their storage room. How much do they cost? Ling Han asked, smiling. How can we accept young Master Han's money? Fu Yuansheng hurriedly waved his hands in refusal. Yet Ling Han was adamant and said, you must accept. Only if the Heaven's Medicine Pavilion accepted his payment would the foundation building pill belong to him entirely. How much could the ingredients for this little thing cost? 1 million, 2 million, but for the completed pill, even if it was auctioned off for 10 million, it would be considered a bargain. It was guaranteed that a large number of people would be fighting to buy it. Fu Yuansheng could only smile sheepishly. He was intending to take the completed pill to study. One had to understand that the success rate for pills close to the level of earth grade was shockingly low. If the full number of pills that could be produced in a single furnace was 10, then it would be wonderful if there was a single completed pill that was successfully concocted. 2 would be considered a logic-defying accomplishment. The ingredients for a black-grade high-level pill were still very expensive. The ingredient value for a single furnace could be as high as 3 million, and if the furnace exploded during the concoction process, that would mean the waste of a whole 3 million coins. But if the pill was successfully concocted, the alchemist would be able to earn not only his investment back, but also a colossal profit. That was what a high-grade alchemical pill was worth, especially the rarer types of high-grade alchemical pills. Ling Han was completely doing business without any kind of capital. He came empty-handed, and with his observation fee, he earned 18 million in one go. Now, he was only paying 3 million out of this 18 million he had already earned. Moreover, with his ability, what would a pill that was merely close to the level of Earth-grade counters? Even if he only managed to produce 3 pills, just the thought of the value was terrifying enough. Please observe closely, everyone. I am going to begin now, Ling Han said. Because all these people had paid to observe him, it was only right for him to warn them beforehand. All of them opened their eyes as wide as possible. They would not only be able to observe a grandmaster's techniques of alchemy, but would also be able to bear witness to the birth of a furnace of pills close to Earth grade. Merely the thought of it was enough to make him shiver in excitement. Ling Han's expression gradually became utterly serious. He was never negligent in matters related to alchemy. After taking a deep breath, he suddenly moved. His movements suddenly turned smooth and incredibly natural, filled with a unique kind of beauty that was pleasing to the eye. It was as if his movements were in line with some unknown law of nature. Alchemy Emperor of the Divine Tao. Chapter 158, Concoction. Heavens! How could merely separating the ingredients look so beautiful? My goodness, to purify 7 different ingredients at the same time. What? I thought purifying 7 different ingredients at the same time was only meant to speed up the concoction process a bit, but smelling this herbal aroma, it seems like the ingredients are far purer than those purified in the usual manner. This is too shocking. Those who had gasped out in shock were the few black-grade low-level alchemists who had not managed to observe Ling Han's concoction process the last time. The other black-grade middle-level alchemists all bore haughty expressions, secretly calling the people who had exclaimed in shock a group of country bumpkins who had never seen the world. Yet they did not recall that when it had been their first time seeing Ling Han concoct an alchemical pill, their reactions were also the same as these people's, making a fuss about nothing, one moment erupting in clamor, and the next stunned into silence. However, as Ling Han proceeded further, all of them kept their eyes wide open, staring determinedly at Ling Han. This included Fu Yuansheng. Every move that Ling Han made seemed to guide along their focus, which would follow every move Ling Han made. In their eyes, Ling Han was no longer just a wet-behind-the-ears youth, but an almighty alchemist of indomitable spirit. Every move he made was filled with an air of perfection, exuding a beautiful rhythm that only alchemists could feel. That's right. It was rhythm, or what was so-called tempo. Alchemy could be claimed as a kind of art. An art of controlling flames, an art of observing as the various ingredients transformed and merged together under high heat. It was an art filled with a very unique rhythm of its own. However, everyone here could not manage to display that feeling of rhythm. They were only following the written instructions, doing everything as what the pill formula described. They would put in specific ingredients at the time that was written on the pill formula, use flames of a certain temperature at a certain time. Everything they did was done mechanically and stiffly. Yet Ling Han had stepped beyond these limitations. Sometimes, he would obviously not be following the instructions of the pill formula strictly, but through a strange rhythm that linked all his actions together, it was a display that was too amazing for words. Grandmaster Alchemist. No, 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 Almighty Alchemist. Or even, Alchemist Emperor. They all nodded their heads. If it was not for the fact that Ling Han was too young and his cultivation level too low, perhaps he would be able to concoct Earth-grade pills now, or even the mythical Heaven-grade pills. When they thought this, they all could not help but experience shock. Theoretically, an alchemist in element gathering tier would only be able to concoct yellow-grade high-level pills. This had nothing to do with the alchemist's ability, but was completely determined by the alchemist's cultivation level. There was nothing that could be done about it. If an alchemist's cultivation level was not high enough, he would not be able to produce a high enough temperature for higher-grade pills. Thus, the only result would be Ling Han's failure. But when they looked at the brilliant alchemic abilities that Ling Han had already displayed, he really did not seem like someone who would try out something even though he obviously knew it would fail. Unless, could it be? They all stared at Ling Han closely as a possibility rose up in their minds. Hong! A crimson flame suddenly erupted from Ling Han's palm. It was the strange fire. As expected, all the alchemists exhaled in shock as they finally understood why Ling Han would dare to concoct an alchemical pill so close to Earth grade and where his confidence came from. Strange fire would be able to compensate for an alchemist's shortcomings in terms of cultivation level. In fact, there were some alchemists who had found an alternative by cultivating some kind of fire-aligned secret arts to increase the heat of their flames. This could be considered a dishonest way of doing things, but it allowed them to achieve a similar result. Of course, when compared with a real strange fire, all of these secret arts could only be considered inferior. Ling Han's movements became faster and faster, and more sweat beaded on his forehead. Due to the high heat rising from the furnace, signs of dehydration once again appeared on him as even his lips cracked slightly. It felt like a blur to the eyes of all the others. The rapid speed at which Ling Han was moving caused them to slightly feel as if they were unable to follow his moves. This was because they not only had to observe carefully each move that Ling Han made, but understand the rationale and logic behind each and every move. Just contemplate for a moment about one move in their heads, and they would have missed out on quite a number of consecutive movements from Ling Han. But that was all right. If they were able to learn one or two moves, it would be enough for them to study for quite a while and drastically increase their own ability as alchemists. The million coins that they had spent was completely worth it. Hong, hong, hong. Flames continuously flickered and appeared on Ling Han's hand. Sometimes the flames would be extraordinarily strong, while at other times, they would appear very weak. It was not that he had lost control over his flames. On the contrary, this was proof that the level of control he had over the temperature of the flames had reached the level of perfection. That's right. When my fusion with the strange fire has advanced to another level, guiding it would have a kind of feeling like it was done completely freely and effortlessly, Ling Han thought. He actually still had the room to think of something else. When others concocted alchemical pills, they would all be putting their whole focus on the concoction process. Being distracted for the slightest moment could mean the furnace exploding and having wasted all their previous efforts. But who asked Ling Han's alchemy standards to be too high? He could even concoct heaven-grade alchemical pills, so this was naturally a piece of cake to him. In fact, he was only thinking now. If he actually wanted to, he could completely give a lecture while he was still in the midst of the concoction process. However, if he actually did that, it was likely he would be scaring everyone here to death. Because, this was a pill that was close to Earth grade. After half an hour, Ling Han's right hand suddenly trembled, and 3 different flames shot out. They were all of different colors, and it looked as if he was setting off fireworks. 3 Fire Guide. This was of course not as simple as it looked. The specifics of it still lay in Ling Han's personal techniques. This was of course not to be taught to outsiders. Pill completed. Ling Han did not immediately lift the lid of the furnace. The higher the grade of alchemical pills, the better their effects would be when they were allowed to stay in the still warm furnace after being completed until they had cooled naturally. Meanwhile, he began to meditate, recovering the origin power and mental energy that he had expended. How many completed pills could there be? From the look of the ingredients, there should be 8 completed pills in total. That's right. There should be 8 completed pills, but taking into account the level of difficulty for concocting a pill so close to Earth grade, managing to produce 1 completed pill would be amazing enough. One completed pill with quality above 5 stars could be considered successful enough. When they saw Ling Han had finally finished the concoction process, those alchemists who had withheld their words for such a long time finally began to talk. They were all discussing whether or not Ling Han had succeeded. If the furnace had exploded, that would mean that everything was wasted. But even if the furnace had not exploded, that did not automatically mean it was a success. Possibly, the completed pill may not even have the lowest quality of 1 star. However, because Ling Han was still meditating, none of them dared to rashly step forward and open up the furnace to find out. Some of the more impatient ones were already starting to fidget where they were standing. After another 10+ minutes, Ling Han finally opened his eyes. He smiled softly at them, and said, "I know that you are all very curious." All of them smiled sheepishly. But this time also involved Ling Han getting the license of a black-grade high-level alchemist, so it was no wonder they were curious. "Young Master Han, don't leave us hanging anymore. I'm about to die of anxiety," Fu Yuansheng said with a laugh. This was also what everyone else was thinking to say. Ling Han pushed the alchemy furnace slightly forward, and said, "Then you may all look now." All of them hurriedly pressed forwards. However, there was really too many of them, and the furnace was really too small. Peng, 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 peng. Suddenly, a lot of heads crashed into one another, causing those who had suffered from this accident to grab onto their heads and shout, "Don't cram in," one after another. Because of his cultivation level of spiritual pedestal tier, Fu Yuansheng managed to snatch the alchemy furnace, causing the others to silently curse inwardly. However, who asked Fu Yuansheng to be a black-grade high-level alchemist, a powerful warrior of spiritual pedestal tier, and someone that had higher status and was more powerful than him? Fu Yuansheng was a bit nervous, and even the hand he stretched out was trembling slightly. All of a sudden, he lifted the lid of the furnace. "What?" he immediately gasped out in shock. His eyes were wide and perfectly round, and an expression of utter disbelief appeared on his face. "Master Fu, what is it? Could it be that there isn't even one completed pill?" All of them asked hurriedly. If it was not for the fact that they were a bit scared of Fu Yuansheng's status and power, they really wanted to snatch the furnace from him. Fu Yuansheng did not utter one word, and after a long time, he finally bore an expression of utter reverence as he said, "Young Master Han is almighty in alchemy. My admiration for you is incomparable." He lowered the furnace and showed it to the others. And inside, there shockingly lay 9 perfectly round alchemical pills. Alchemy Emperor of the Divine Tao. Chapter 159, A Terrifying Pill Completion Rate. 9 pills. How could this be? One had to understand that even if Ling Han had reached the level of 100% pill completion rate, without wasting any ingredients at all, the amount of ingredients supplied by Fu Yuansheng was only enough to produce 8 foundation-building pills. Yet in front of their eyes, there now lay 9 pills. How was this possible? It must have failed. Look for yourselves. Fu Yuansheng drew out a pill and passed it to the alchemist standing closest to him. That person received it from him. He quickly examined it first, then smelt it before finally raising it high to examine it against the light. At last, a shocked expression appeared on his face, as he said, "Though I am of humble talent and shallow learning, I can confirm 100% that this is definitely foundation-building pill, and what?" the others asked hurriedly. "And the quality of this pill seems to have exceeded 10 stars. The man said finally after a moment of stuttering through his words. Pooh. They almost passed out from shock. All of them were filled with complete, utter disbelief. In theory, when a black-grade high-level alchemist concocted a black-grade high-level pill, it was already good enough to produce a pill with quality of about 5 stars. For geniuses, they would be able to produce pills that could reach about 8 stars in quality, while incomparable extraordinary geniuses would be able to concoct pills that could occasionally reach 10 stars. But 11 stars, 12 stars, this was absolutely impossible. Only if it was a high-ranking alchemist concocting a low-grade alchemical pill would such an impossible thing happen. So did that mean that Ling Han's alchemic abilities had already reached Earth grade? Hiss. The realization caused him to inhale air sharply. Let me see. The others were all scrambling to take a look at the pills. Fu Yuansheng quickly called a halt to their actions. Foundation building pill was a pill that was unbearably close to Earth grade, so it was extremely valuable. He let the others all line up and then inspect the pills one by one. It really is foundation building pill. The color and aroma is exactly as what is described in the alchemy books. Indeed, take a look at the exquisite shine to it. Its quality should definitely have exceeded 10 stars. Heavens! I feel like I'm about to lose my mind. Something like this could actually be real. All of them were exclaiming in shock. A young man of merely 17 years old actually managed to successfully concoct an alchemical pill close to the level of Earth grade, and the quality of this pill has even exceeded 10 stars. No. They still had to take into account Ling Han's terrifying pill completion rate. 100%. It's not 100%. The ingredients should have only sufficed to produce 8 pills, but why are there 9? One of them recalled this puzzling point. Fu Yuansheng inspected the remaining 8 pills, and said decisively, I can guarantee with my reputation that these foundation building pills are not only successful, but their quality is not the slightest bit beneath that one. Using his reputation and honor as a black-grade high-level alchemist to guarantee, then, that meant that there was definitely no problem with the other 8 pills. Genius. Young Master Han is definitely a genius of alchemy. I get it. Young Master Han managed to obtain purer essences of the ingredients with better effects from the purification process earlier on. That's why he could produce 9 foundation building pills. That's right. The so-called limitation of 8 pills is based on the fact that normal methods of purification are used, but with young Master Han's unique purification technique, it is indeed possible to produce an additional pill. Heavens! They all grabbed onto their heads and exclaimed in shock. They all looked at Ling Han with heated gazes, as if they were looking at a god of alchemy. In fact, although their guess was not accurate, it was not far from the truth. Ling Han stood up and said, all right. I've collected the money and you've watched my performance, so I should take my leave now. He walked over and retrieved the pills, placing them in a jade bottle. Then he turned and said to Fu Yuansheng, when the license approval is done, send me the badge. Fu Yuansheng quickly agreed very respectfully, as if he was an alchemist's apprentice who had just started learning from his master. Ling Han left with Hu Niu in his arms. The little girl had already fallen asleep in Lu Yutong's arms after getting bored. However, when they arrived at the restaurant and she smelt the enticing aroma of food, the little girl's nose twitched and she immediately awoke. Meat, she called out in delight. After satisfying Hu Niu's gluttonous appetite, the 3 of them went to the Spirit Treasures Pavilion. Ling Han was not planning to keep these 9 foundation building pills for himself, and so was naturally going to sell them off. And for this kind of rare alchemical pill, they belonged to the category of having no lack of buyers with no one willing to sell, so how could he be selling it cheaply for a named price? He was of course going to auction them off to the highest bidder. In the Imperial City, there was no auction house better than the Spirit Treasures Pavilion. However, if he decided to auction them off, there would need to be a period of advertising and publicity, so he would not be able to immediately earn back what he had spent. But it was all right. Ling Han had just earned over 10 million moments ago, and this was more than enough to support those clothing stores of his that were making losses for quite some time. What do the 2 honorable customers wanted to buy? A worker immediately stepped forward to greet him. Hu Niu was naturally overlooked by him. Ling Han smiled, and said, I have some alchemical pills to auction off, so please let your appraiser come to assess my alchemical pills. Alchemical pills. Hee. There incidentally stood a couple beside them. The man looked to be in his 40s and with a disdainful expression, he said, what kind of alchemical pills could a young man bring? Don't shame yourself in this kind of place. He swept an eye over Lu Yutong, and a stunned expression appeared on his features. This is Fan Dongping, Grandmaster Fan, a yellow-grade middle-level alchemist. The woman beside him immediately introduced. She was quite good-looking, but her makeup was a bit overdone. The worker was a bit embarrassed. It was the freedom of the customers to decide what they wanted to auction, as long as the item they wanted to auction was found to be up to the standard of the Spirit Treasures Pavilion after appraisal. The Spirit Treasures Pavilion had a fixed commission rate anyways. However, a yellow-grade middle-level alchemist was not someone he could offend either. Thus, he first raised his clasped hands in Fan Dongping's direction, and said, "I shall go and ask Appraiser Ma to come over." Then he quickly escaped. Fan Dongping looked very arrogant, and from the corner of his eye, he glanced at Lu Yutong, hoping to see an expression of astonishment appear on her face. However, he was disappointed. This beauty that seemed as cold as ice did not have any change in her expression. The gaudy woman stared at Lu Yutong in jealousy. This woman was more beautiful than her, more graceful, and most importantly, was younger than her. After a while, the worker led a middle-aged man who looked to be in his 40s over. This man was only in the 7th layer of element gathering tier, but a faint air of scrolls and books exuded from him, giving a comfortable feeling to others. "This is Ma Tiansheng, Appraiser Ma," the worker introduced. Ling Han did not mind either way, handed the pill bottle to Ma Tiansheng, and said, "Then I'll have to trouble Appraiser Ma to take a look for me." "I'll do it." Fan Dongping suddenly stretched out a hand and snatched the pill bottle away. Then, he turned and said to Ma Tiansheng with a laugh, "I am a yellow-grade middle-level alchemist, and if we're talking about appraisal of alchemical pill, I should not be beneath Brother Ma, right?" A flicker of displeasure flashed over Ma Tiansheng's face, but he did not express this displeasure in view of Fan Dongping's status as an alchemist. Instead, he nodded with a darkened expression, and said, "Please." Fan Dongping looked immensely pleased with himself. He naturally was trying to deliberately show off and attract Lu Yutong's attention. Yet he did not consider the fact that he had reached middle age, and was still trying to attract a girl so much younger than himself. He removed the cork of the pill bottle. With a single sniff, his expression changed greatly. He took a look inside, then quickly recorked the bottle and stuffed it inside his pocket directly. He then turned to Ling Han and said, "Brat, this bottle of spirit-gathering pills is not worth much. Here, this is a monetary note worth 10,000 silver coins, and I'll buy it from you out of the kindness of my heart." Ling Han was shocked. He knew that Fan Dongping was shameless, but the extent of his shamelessness was something he had never imagined. What was the difference between what he was doing and robbing? Ma Tiansheng did not know what alchemical pills were contained inside the pill bottle, but looking at the anxious actions of Fan Dongping, he could guess that they were not ordinary pills. Instantly, an angered expression appeared on his face, and he said, "This is something that the customer has passed to our Spirit Treasures Pavilion to auction, so I should be the one doing the appraisal. It's difficult to be kind. Take it then." Fan Dongping drew out a pill bottle from his pocket and tossed it over to Ma Tiansheng. Ling Han swept an eye over it, and a cold smile appeared on his face, because the pill bottle had been swapped. How outrageously bold! Alchemy Emperor of the Divine Tao. Chapter 160, Swapped. Ma Tiansheng took the pill bottle from Fan Dongping. He had not observed closely the original pill bottle that Ling Han had brought, so he naturally had no idea that Fan Dongping had done a swap. He uncorked the bottle, took a look inside and could not hold back on expressing his displeasure. These were indeed spirit-gathering pills, and the quality was nothing too impressive either. They looked to be only about 5 to 6 stars and completely not valuable enough to be auctioned by the Spirit Treasures Pavilion. "Young man, these are just ordinary spirit-gathering pills, and they are not valuable enough to be auctioned." Ma Tiansheng threw the pill bottle back to Fan Dongping, anger flickering across his face. He actually lost his composure because of a bottle of spirit-gathering pills. This was extremely displeasing to him. Lu Yutong already understood what was going on, and the gaze she directed at Fan Dongping had a sliver of killing intent. Meanwhile, Fan Dongping was extremely pleased with himself. He did not know that the pill bottle he had swapped contained foundation-building pills, but was able to ascertain that they were at least black-grade alchemical pills. To be able to obtain such a valuable item for merely 10,000 silver coins was indeed an extremely, overwhelmingly profitable business venture. If he had known that they were foundation-building pills, he most likely would not have dared to try such a scheme, because it would involve a lot of trouble that he would not be able to cope with. Moreover, the person he had cheated was just a young man that was about 16 to 17 years old. So what if he found out that the pill bottle was swapped? What could he do against a yellow-grade middle-level alchemist like him? "Let's go," he said to the gaudy woman next to him. After all, he had something on his conscience, so the best option for him now was naturally to leave this place as soon as possible. Ling Han could not help but smile, and said, "You are indeed quite bold to actually dare to scam me. I don't know what you're talking about. I'm leaving." Fan Dongping's heart beat wildly in his chest. It was an absolute windfall for him to have managed to get a bottle of black-grade alchemical pills out of a scam. "You can't leave anymore," Ling Han said calmly. "Heng. I am a yellow-grade middle-level alchemist. Do you intend to stop me from leaving?" Fan Dongping asked coldly, preparing to walk forwards. "Pa." Ling Han stretched out a hand and grabbed onto Fan Dongping's wrist. He said with a smile, "I'm not just going to stop you from leaving, I'm also going to thrash you." "You dare!" Fan Dongping shouted loudly, "Let go! Let go your sister!" Ling Han's fist flashed out and with a pa, hit Fan Dongping's left eye, instantly causing the guy to cry out in pain and use a hand to cover his eye. When he lowered his hand, his eye had become black and blue. "Bar bastard!" Fan Dongping roared fiercely. "The people of Spirit Treasure's Pavilion, are you not going to interfere and allow someone to commit crime in your territory? Are you still planning to continue your business?" A troubled expression appeared on Ma Tiansheng's face at his words. Indeed, it was forbidden to make trouble at Spirit Treasure's Pavilion, but he was not happy with Fan Dongping's character. That was why he had not stepped out to stop Ling Han at the first moment. But as Fan Dongping had pointed out the inaction of the Spirit Treasure's Pavilion so directly, it was not proper for him to pretend that he had not heard Fan Dongping either. "Young man, stop immediately!" he shouted at Ling Han. Peng, 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 peng. Ling Han looked like he had not heard anything at all. He simply concentrated on giving Fan Dongping a harsh beating. Actually daring to try to cheat him, how outrageously brave of him. Fury appeared on Ma Tiansheng's face. This young man actually ignored his words, and even dared to use violence in Spirit Treasure's Pavilion. He was really too brave. He snorted and called out, "Guards, apprehend this brat." Lu Yutong immediately took a step forward. Hu Nu's ferocious nature also surfaced as she bared her teeth at Ma Tiansheng. Ling Han retrieved a jade bottle from Fan Dongping's clothes. He was of course very familiar with his own possession. He did not even take another look, and simply threw it over to Ma Tiansheng as he said, "This is what I wanted to auction." Ma Tiansheng smiled coldly, and said, "You actually dared to make a move at Spirit Treasure's Pavilion, and still want to pretend nothing had happened. You're wrong. I only caught a thief myself, retrieved my stolen possession, and gave the thief a well-deserved thrashing," Ling Han said calmly and directed a dignified stare at Ma Tiansheng. Ma Tiansheng's heart trembled. The eyes of this young man seemed to be able to see into the inner depths of his soul, causing his whole body to tremble. Involuntarily, he uncorked the jade bottle. It was only a single instant, and an expression of utter shock appeared on his face. As an appraiser, he was naturally not familiar with the ways of alchemy. However, he was very familiar with the various types of alchemical pills, because this was part of his job. Foundation building pill. Ma Tiansheng immediately gasped out in shock, indescribable astonishment on his face. In that one moment, he had already believed that Ling Han was telling the truth and that Fan Dongping had definitely played a trick on them both and swapped the pill bottles. Otherwise, how could a mere yellow-grade middle-level alchemist like Fan Dongping be able to possess foundation-building pills? So you do have good judgment. Ling Han nodded. Foundation building pills definitely had never appeared in Rain Country, but this man could recognize that they were foundation building pills with a single look, so it seemed like he did have some knowledge and experience. Ma Tiansheng could not bother with Ling Han at that moment. He drew out a foundation building pill and scrutinized it to ascertain the quality of it. Ling Han smiled calmly. Since that was the case, then he'd deal with his own issue as well. His foot pressed down on Fan Dongping's face and he smiled as he said, "You were very brave to actually dare to scam even my things." "Brat, you're dead," Fan Dongping said grimly. "I am an alchemist, and you actually dare to injure me. That is a crime punished by death. Moreover, you even stole my alchemical pills. This will only make your crime worse. You still dare not to repent for your crimes." Ling Han shook his head, and asked Lu Yutong, according to the laws of Rain Country, how much money should a person like him steal to be able to be sentenced to death? A crime of theft could either be heavy or light. It depended on the amount stolen, as well as the identity of the victim. If 10 silver coins was stolen from a poor commoner, that would be considered a heavy crime. But for a rich man, a theft of 10 silver coins would only cause him to be looked down by others for a while. If a yellow-grade middle-level alchemist like Fan Dongping were to be sentenced to death for theft, the amount stolen would have to be exorbitantly colossal. Lu Yutong thought for a moment, then said, "At least 10 million. Ling Han turned and asked Ma Tiansheng, "Are these foundation building pills worth 10 million? Ma Tiansheng immediately glared at Ling Han furiously. What kind of joke was he talking about? These were foundation building pills they were talking about, and the lowest price for one was 10 million and above. Do you have any common sense at all?" But when he recalled that these foundation building pills were Ling Han's own, he instantly softened, and said, "There are in total 9 foundation building pills here, and if they were to be auctioned off, the lowest price they could be sold at would be 100 million silver coins." 100 million. Fan Dongping instantly felt like he was going to pass out as an incomparably cold shiver traveled all over his body. How could Ling Han be any ordinary person if he were able to take out an auction item that was worth 100 million? But, when he thought about the reality that he would really be arrested for theft, it was not only something shameful for him, the colossal amount of 100 million was more than enough to sentence him to death. Beside him, the gaudily dressed woman had already begun to shiver and silently moved away from him, obviously trying to draw a clear dividing line between herself and Fan Dongping. "No, these alchemical pills are mine. Mine." The only thing Fan Dongping could do now was to insist stubbornly that he was telling the truth. If not, he would really be finished. "Are you an idiot?" Ling Han gave him a kick. "How could a stupid pig like you be able to concoct alchemical pills that are close to Earth grade? You yourself are an idiot, so you think others are idiots too." Fan Dongping's face became ashen. He knew that he had poked a hornet's nest now. Alchemical pills close to Earth grade. Perhaps not even the 2 big bosses of alchemy of Rain Country would be able to concoct such high-grade pills. This young man must definitely have a terrifying background. "Master Ma." 3 guards approached quickly and looked at Ma Tiansheng in question. They had come because they saw that there was a big commotion going on here. "Apprehend this man," Ma Tiansheng commanded coldly, "then make a report to the Imperial Guards. Tell them we have encountered a crime of theft here." "Yes, Master Ma." Fan Dongping, who was currently looking like a dead dog, was immediately dragged out by the 3 guards. End of the chapter. Alchemy Emperor of the Divine Tao will be read in 5 chapters for every Monday, Wednesday, Friday and Sunday. Please leave this sound novel and press subscribe, follow, and the bell so you don't miss any new clips as well. See you.